Marley, can you tell me what's in the night sky?
Stars?
And can you tell me anything about stars? Things you might have learned in school or in church, or just things you might know about stars?
I'll tell you something that I learned in school and church. So what I learned in school is that stars are really bright in the sky, and there's a lot of stars in the world. But what I know from church is that there's actually a family that has more people in their family than the stars in the world.
So today, we're going to read a story, and it's called God's Promise to Abram.
The one I was just telling you about.
Exactly. So let's go. So God came to Abram and made a promise. Abram, you are very special to me. I will take care of you and give you lots of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. But Abram asked God many times, "Are you sure? I don't have any children yet." God thought Abram needed something more to help him understand. So God took Abram outside and showed him the night sky. Your family will include as many people as there are stars in the sky,
Wow.
God said to Abram. Abram stared up at all those stars. He couldn't begin to count all those twinkling lights. Stars and stars all around him. Abram looked up at the stars and saw God's work. Abram believed God. So for our activity today, you should have each gotten a piece of paper emailed to your parents that's called Stars in the Sky template. And what you want to do is you want to cut out your stars in the sky, which we've already done, and then you want to trace them onto cardboard or poster board or another piece of paper. So Marley's going to go ahead and trace them, and then once they're traced, we're going to cut them out, and then we'll paint and design the stars. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to cut out each of your stars that you've drawn, and then we'll go ahead and paint or color them. If you need some help, ask one of your parents to help you. Now the next thing that we're going to do, now that we've got all the stars cut out, is going to decorate them. Marley, have you figured out how you want to decorate your stars?
Yeah, I'm probably going to do some with glitter and some with paint.
All right, well let's get started and see how that turns out. So after you've decorated your stars, what you'll want to do is stick a string through it, punch a hole and stick a string through the hole so that you can hang up the stars in your room or on a hanger as a mobile.
Or on your Christmas tree.
That's a great idea.
Hello boys and girls. The next activity that we'll be doing today is making a constellation. A constellation is a group of stars that's forming a recognizable pattern that is traditionally named after its form or mythological figure. Some say that we have over 80 constellations in our solar system. Today, we're only going to just identify 9 constellations. So the supplies that we'll be needing today is some type of jar, like a mason jar or a pickle jar, a knife, something that you can poke holes with, but make sure we ask our parents for help. Something that can illuminate, like a tea candle or some type of lighting system that's going to go into the jar. A lighter to light the candle. Some type of Sharpie, a silver sharpener, so you can connect all your stars together. We have a piece of foil. This is what we're going to poke our holes in. And then what I did was I went online to Google and just looked at constellation map. And what this did was it gave me a map of all the constellations so I could easily identify it. So the first thing, the last thing we also need is some type of cardboard, something that I could put my foil so I could poke holes in it. That way I don't mess up mom and dad's furniture, because we know that we don't want to do that. All right, so what I'm going to first start off doing is I'm going to put my map on the foil. And you can see I put a little tape in here and you can see all the different constellations. And then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to start going to those 9 constellations and identifying them. The first one is Hercules. Does anybody know who Hercules is? Have you seen the cartoon? The next one is our Big Dipper. And if you notice, the Big Dipper consists of 7 stars. The next constellation is our Little Dipper, which also consists of 7 stars. But a fun fact about the Little Dipper is it also has the North Star in it, which is the brightest star of all the stars. Our next constellation is the Draco. And what does Draco mean? Draco is the Latin word for dragon, so that's got to be like a fierce constellation. Our next constellation is Cassiopeia, and that was named after a Greek mythological queen who was also very high on herself. She thought very highly of herself. The next constellation is Cepheus. That's named after the mythological Greek, the king. And then our next constellation is Orion. Orion was named after the hunter in Greek mythology. So you'll see this is like a person with a bow and arrow. Our next constellation is Cancer, which is the Latin word for crab. And then our last constellation that we're going to be doing is Gemini. This is a group of stars that represents two boys, twins, that is Castor and Palladius. They were these brothers and sons of Zeus. Alright, so once we have all of our constellations, the 9 that we have identified, we poke holes, we've identified them. Now just poke a bunch of different holes around it so you can give like a little bit more light into your mason jar. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of fold our ends just to cover up some of the paperwork. That way it kind of gives more of the foil on it. And then we're going to make it a round connection, like a cylinder. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drop it right into the mason jar. So when you do it, you can see all the constellation. And as we marked it in silver where we highlighted each one of them. I could see it in my mason jar. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in my little candle. That way we can get it. And then we're going to actually light it. And when we light it, we're going to turn the lights off. And when we turn the lights off, you should be able to see the light illuminating through your foil that identifies each one of the constellation that you marked off. And now we're going to take the lighter and light our candle. And then we're going to look at it. And as the light gets brighter, you could see all the constellation that you poked holes in. And just turn the jar around in circles slowly so you can see all the little holes that you did. And you can make out the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, Orion, Hercules, all the other ones that you created. So I hope you've enjoyed this exercise. Have fun, and always remember, there's always a star out there for you.
All right, so now we're going to do our closing prayer. You ready, Marley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Dear God,
Dear God,
you have created all of us
you have created all of us
as shining stars.
as shining stars.
We want to bring your light
We want to bring your light
to the world
to the world
as descendants of Abraham.
as descendants of Abraham.
Let your light shine through us.
Let your light shine through us.
Thank you for creating us
Thank you for creating us
and giving us stars in the sky
and giving us stars in the sky
to remind us
to remind us
of your guiding light.
of your guiding light.
Amen.
Amen.
Y'all have a great day.